were called the wolf pack, silent steel coffins that stalked their prey on the ocean floor. From the darkness, U-boats sprang forth like invisible hunters, wreaking terror on every ship crossing the Atlantic. Among nearly 40,000 German sailors who once stepped inside a U-boat during World War II, only about 6,000 returned alive. The rest remained forever at the bottom of the Atlantic, crushed, drowned, burned, or drifting in silence. Germany's underwater fleet was not only the hunter of Allied shipping, it also became the hunted. Behind every successful strike was a crew trapped in suffocating, deadly conditions, where each dive could be their last. How did one of the most feared naval forces become the most tragic? The answer lies deep beneath the waves, in cold steel corridors, leaking pipes, and pressures strong enough to tear a body apart in an instant. This is the harrowing story of why 91% of U-boat sailors never came home. The idea of German submarines did not begin with World War II. As early as 1850, engineer Wilhelm Bauer built the prototype Brandtalker. During trials, it sank in Kiel Harbor, though Bauer and 2 crewmen escaped. Despite failure, the project laid the foundation for undersea warfare in German military engineering. In the decades that followed, navies worldwide, especially Britain, France, and the United States, began pursuing submarine technology. Germany, eager for a navy to rival the great powers, joined the race. By the early 20th century, shipyards like Germania Werft in Kiel and AG Weser in Bremen developed the first submarines for the Kaiserliche Marine. Launched in 1906, U-1 was Germany's first modern military submarine. Though limited in speed, range, and safety, it marked a milestone, from technical experiment to practical weapon. By 1914, when World War I erupted, Germany had 28 U-boats ready for combat. This reflected Germany's naval strategy. Unable to match Britain's powerful battleship fleet, Berlin turned to the deep sea as an asymmetric weapon. Rather than seek decisive naval battles, U-boats would cut supply lines and weaken the enemy's war machine. Thus, Germany's dream beneath the waves was not merely a technical ambition, but a strategic choice born of naval imbalance. From these beginnings, the U-boat emerged as a global force, an enduring menace of the Atlantic in both world wars. When World War I began, Germany's U-boat fleet was small, just 28 vessels, but they quickly proved their worth. In September 1914, U-9 under Otto Weddigen sank 3 British cruisers in a single morning, shocking Europe and proving the submarine's potential to reshape naval warfare. At first, German submarines observed traditional rules of war, warning merchant crews and allowing evacuation before launching torpedoes. But as the conflict dragged on, this gave way to unrestricted submarine warfare, where any ship, including those of neutral nations, could be targeted. The turning point came in 1915, when U-20 sank the passenger liner Lusitania off Ireland, killing over 1,000 people, many of them Americans. Outrage forced Germany to temporarily restrict U-boat activity. Yet by 1917, in desperation to starve Britain, Berlin resumed unrestricted warfare. Hundreds of ships were sunk, Britain's supplies dwindled, and the United States finally declared war on Germany. Though U-boats inflicted severe losses, they could not force Britain's surrender. Convoy escorts and U.S. naval support reduced the damage. By war's end in 1918, Germany had deployed nearly 400 U-boats, sinking over 5,000 ships, but at the cost of more than 5,000 submarine crewmen. World War I ended, but the submarine's terrifying potential was proven. Once experimental, it had become a strategic weapon, haunting sea lanes worldwide, a legacy that would shape naval warfare in the decades ahead. After defeat, the Treaty of Versailles, 1919, banned Germany from building or owning submarines. The once proud U-boat force was dismantled, many vessels surrendered or destroyed. But the lure of undersea warfare endured. German naval leaders, convinced submarines were the weapon of the future, found ways to bypass restrictions. During the 1920s, they set up front companies in the Netherlands, Sweden, and Spain to covertly study submarine design. German engineers even cooperated secretly with the Soviet Union in Leningrad, preserving expertise for the day Germany could rearm. At home, the Navy maintained a small U-Boot Abwehr, anti-submarine unit, officially for defense, but in reality preserving knowledge and training future officers. Though limited in scope, these efforts ensured submarine expertise survived. Thus, when Hitler seized power in 1933 and renounced Versailles, Germany rapidly revived its U-boat program, paving the way for its dramatic return in World War II. By 1939, when war broke out, Germany's U-boat force was still too small to challenge the Royal Navy outright. Yet under Admiral Dönitz, the Wolfpack and Rudel strategy proved devastating. Instead of lone patrols, submarines coordinated in groups to attack huge convoys crossing the Atlantic. Between 1940 and 1942, U-boats struck terror. They ambushed at night when escorts were weak and radar was ineffective. Hundreds of merchant ships carrying food, fuel, and arms from North America to Britain were sunk. 1942 became the golden year of the U-boats. More than 1,000 vessels destroyed, pushing Britain to the brink. Winston Churchill admitted his greatest fear was not the German army, but the U-boat menace at sea. At the heart of U-boat power was the torpedo, an invisible killer beneath the waves. Unlike guns or bombs, it struck unseen at a ship's most vulnerable point. A single hit could sink a freighter of thousands of tons, or even a battleship within minutes. At first, German torpedoes malfunctioned. The magnetic detonators often failed, detonating too early, veering off course, or not exploding at all. Many U-boat captains raged at missed opportunities. By 1942, these flaws were fixed. Torpedoes became reliable, and combined with night ambush tactics, they created a nightmare for Allied sailors. Notable attacks like U-47 sinking the battleship Royal Oak inside Scapa Flow in 1939, or the mass destruction of U.S. tankers in 1942, spread fear across the seas. To Allied crews, nothing was more terrifying than the sudden invisible strike of the undersea hunter. For Germany, the torpedo was more than a weapon. It was a symbol of technological ingenuity, of striking the enemy through unconventional means. Though the tide of war eventually turned, the U-boat torpedo campaign left its mark. The Atlantic became a deadly arena where death could come from the unseen depths at any moment. Then came May 1943, Germany's Black May. In just 4 weeks, 43 U-boats were lost along with over 2,000 sailors, an unprecedented blow in the Battle of the Atlantic. The reasons lay in Allied transformation. Convoy escorts grew stronger, radar and sonar improved, and escort carriers unleashed aircraft over the once safe mid-Atlantic gap. At the same time, Enigma codes were cracked, giving Allies advanced knowledge of U-boat positions. What was once Germany's secret advantage became a deadly trap. Losses forced Admiral Dönitz to withdraw much of the fleet for refitting. Though U-boats fought on, their golden era was over. From then on, the Allies held the initiative, securing supply lines that proved decisive for victory. For German sailors, U-boats were both pride and nightmare. In the early years, they symbolized technological might and daring spirit. Later, they became steel coffins. Life aboard was brutal. Cramped space, heat, foul air, oil and mold everywhere. Voyages lasted weeks, men sleeping in sweat-soaked bunks, still warm from the last shift. Food spoiled quickly, fresh water was rationed, and sickness spread. After 1943, the danger multiplied. Radar, sonar, and patrol planes meant U-boats were constantly hunted. A single depth charge or torpedo strike meant instant death for the entire crew, usually 40 men, without survivors. The casualty rate tells the story. Of more than 40,000 U-boat sailors, about 30,000 died, one of the highest loss rates of any service in the war. For all their terror, U-boats became synonymous with mass death, steel coffins drifting beneath the waves. By war's end, the grim numbers shocked the world. Of 40,000 submariners, over 30,000 perished, a 75% death rate. Some estimates, counting training accidents and suicide missions, reach as high as 91%. Most were young men aged 18 to 24, dying in darkness beneath the sea. Survivors carried trauma for life, haunted by the creaking steel and rushing waters of their final dives. The U-boat campaign sank over 2,700 Allied ships, delaying invasions and choking supply lines. But the cost defies imagination. No medal, no song, No parade could redeem the lives lost. Today, most U-boats remain on the seabed, steel tombs for men who died in fear and silence. The story of the U-boats is not one of glory. It is one of tragedy, a strategy born of calculation, ending in horror.